the surgeon who saw through bullets. Our story now turns to the unlikely protagonist in this grim saga, Sir Archibald McIndoe. He wasn't a general nor an engineer, but a surgeon. His realm was the operating theater, not the battlefield, yet his actions would profoundly impact the survival rates of those who flew into the jaws of aerial combat. McIndoe's journey from a healer to a relentless detective began within the sterile, yet often heartbreaking, confines of the Royal Air Force Hospital. Here, amidst the constant flow of injured airmen, he was confronted daily with the brutal realities of war. As the leading surgeon for the Royal Air Force, McIndoe personally operated on hundreds of pilots. Each shattered bone, each gaping wound, told a story of sudden violence and often of a life tragically cut short. But McIndoe was not content merely to mend what was broken. He possessed a keen, analytical mind that sought patterns and solutions beyond the immediate surgical challenge. He began to meticulously systematize data about the injuries he observed. With painstaking precision, he compiled detailed maps of bullet and shrapnel trajectories, charting exactly where the enemy's fire found its mark. What he uncovered was both startling and profoundly significant. His data revealed that the vast majority of fatal wounds were concentrated within a relatively small, critical area of the body, the chest and abdomen. This vital zone, he discovered, accounted for only a mere 9% of the body's total surface area. Yet, it was the primary target for lethal damage. Picture the scene in the operating room. The cool, sterile light reflecting off stainless steel instruments, the pervasive scent of antiseptic hanging in the air, and the quiet, measured tones of McIndoe giving instructions. His hands, though accustomed to the delicate precision of the scalpel, now moved with a different purpose. They sketched the outline of a human body on a sheet of paper, methodically shading in the lethal zones he had identified. He wasn't simply treating wounds anymore. He was searching for a way to prevent them altogether. It was this profound understanding, derived from countless hours of observation and analysis, that would set the stage for his most daring and impactful intervention. He was a surgeon, yes, but one who, in his meticulous investigation of the fallen, learned to see through the very bullets that brought them down, identifying the precise points where life was most vulnerable and, crucially, where it could be saved. This methodical approach, born out of deep empathy and scientific rigor, was the seed from which a revolution in pilot protection would grow. Theft for salvation, the birth of the forbidden vest. Driven by the stark data and the horrific scenes he witnessed daily, McIndoe found himself facing an unbearable dilemma. He knew where the vulnerabilities lay, and he knew that every passing week, every bureaucratic delay, meant more young lives lost. This acute awareness propelled him to take an extraordinary, almost audacious, step. Without seeking official permission from the higher echelons of command, and deliberately circumventing the slow, often stifling processes of military bureaucracy, Sir Archibald McIndoe began to create the first prototype of a protective vest. This was not merely an act of invention. It was an act of rebellion born of compassion. Using the limited resources available to the medical service, he unauthorizedly engineered a vest designed to cover those critical 9% of the body that accounted for the majority of fatal wounds. The material chosen was manganese steel, a robust and effective barrier against shrapnel and bullets, weighing approximately 1.7 kilograms. This weight was a deliberate calculation, a balance between protection and what he knew pilots could reasonably carry without significant impediment. A persistent rumor, almost an anecdote, surrounding the inception of these early prototypes paints a vivid picture of McIndoe's ingenuity and determination. It is said that he borrowed the necessary steel from the stores of aviation factories, ostensibly under the pretense of medical experiments. This legend, if true, highlights the desperate measures he was willing to undertake, bending rules and blurring lines for a cause he believed was unequivocally just. He wasn't stealing for personal gain, but for the collective survival of the airmen under his care. This act of theft was, in essence, an act of the highest responsibility, a profound defiance of procedure in the name of saving lives. McIndoe understood implicitly that every week of bureaucratic foot-dragging translated directly into hundreds of young men perishing in the skies above Europe. He consciously chose a path that would require him to beg for forgiveness later rather than waste precious time seeking permission now. He grasped that the conventional chain of command, with its inherent delays and cautious approach to innovation, was fundamentally incompatible with the urgent, brutal realities of aerial warfare. In his mind, a profound question must have echoed. My oath is do no harm, but what causes greater harm? To break a rule, or to allow these boys to continue to die? For McIndoe, the answer was clear. The moral imperative to protect the lives of the airmen superseded any administrative protocol. His decision to move forward, unsanctioned and against the established norms, was a testament to his character, a blend of scientific acumen, deep humanitarianism, and an unyielding will to enact change even in the face of institutional resistance. This forbidden vest, forged in the fires of necessity and a surgeon's ethical resolve, was about to face its true test, not just against enemy fire, but against the entrenched skepticism of the very establishment it sought to serve. Confronting Goliath, a bullet against bureaucracy. The creation of the forbidden vest was only half the battle. Now, McIndoe faced his greatest challenge, convincing the rigid, tradition-bound establishment of the Royal Air Force to accept his revolutionary and unsanctioned innovation. The stage for this confrontation was a meeting in the austere, wood-paneled office of high-ranking RAF officials. McIndoe, a surgeon by trade, entered a room full of generals and air marshals, men whose lives revolved around strategy, logistics, and established protocols. He presented his invention, a simple manganese steel plate designed to save lives, only to be met by a formidable wall of incomprehension and resistance. The primary arguments against his protective vest were as predictable as they were frustrating. The highly decorated officers cited concerns about the excess weight of the vest. Their reasoning was strictly tactical and logistical. Added weight, they argued, would inevitably lead to a reduction in maneuverability for the aircraft, making them potentially easier targets, and a greater consumption of fuel, impacting operational range and efficiency. These were valid points from a purely military strategic perspective, but they seemed to utterly disregard the human cost. It was in this tense atmosphere that a legendary story, perhaps an embellishment but deeply illustrative of McIndoe's frustration and conviction, is said to have unfolded. Pushed to the brink of desperation by the general's dismissive attitude, McIndoe reportedly placed one of his steel plates onto the polished mahogany table. Then, in a moment of sheer audacity that surely stunned the room into silence, he pulled out his service pistol and fired a shot directly into the plate. The deafening report echoed through the room, followed by the sight of a clear indentation in the steel and a ricocheting bullet. The once composed generals were now utterly astonished, their faces reflecting a mixture of shock and dawning realization. There, gentlemen, McIndoe is said to have declared, his voice cutting through the stunned silence, is the difference between a live pilot and dead weight. This dramatic demonstration was a visceral, undeniable counter-argument to their abstract concerns about weight and fuel. It brought the grim reality of aerial combat and the tangible solution he offered directly into their bureaucratic sanctuary. His passionate plea was then distilled into a historical statement, one that would be remembered and cited in memoirs from that era. It is better to return alive, albeit slightly heavier, pilot to base than a dead one with perfect fuel consumption figures. This quote perfectly encapsulates the essence of McIndoe's argument. He was not dismissing operational efficiency, but rather prioritizing human life above all else. He challenged the very premise that a marginal increase in aircraft performance was more valuable than the survival of the men flying them. For McIndoe, the value of a pilot's life far outweighed the technical penalties. His bold stand, culminating in this unforgettable demonstration, marked a turning point. He had pierced through the veil of bureaucracy not just with logic, but with the undeniable, shocking reality of a bullet and a steel plate. The battle was far from over, but the surgeon had made his indelible mark. Section 4. The Triumph of Mae West. The Armor They Loved. The chilling statistics of aerial combat, where brave men faced a hail of bullets and shrapnel, slowly began to shift. Sir Archibald McIndoe's revolutionary, albeit unauthorized, manganese steel vest, initially met with skepticism and bureaucratic resistance, was about to prove its worth in the crucible of war. Its journey from a clandestine prototype to standard issue was swift and undeniable, driven by the stark reality of saving lives. In 1944, the vest was officially adopted by the Royal Air Force. It was designated the Body Armor Type F, a rather formal and understated name for an item that would soon become a symbol of protection and a source of grim camaraderie among bomber crews. Its introduction marked a pivotal moment in aviation history, directly addressing the leading cause of fatalities among airmen. The impact was immediate and profound. Data quickly accumulated, showing a dramatic reduction in combat losses. Specifically, the vest was credited with lowering the number of fatal chest wounds by an impressive 50%. This figure wasn't just a statistic. It represented thousands of lives saved, thousands of families spared the devastating news of a son, husband, or father lost to the skies. But beyond the official designation and the impressive casualty figures, the vest found its true acceptance and appreciation on the front lines, in the cramped, freezing confines of bombers flying through enemy fire. It was here that it earned its most enduring and affectionate nickname, Mae West. This moniker, a piece of classic soldiers' dark humor, was a direct reference to the renowned American actress and sex symbol of the era, known for her curvaceous figure. The crews, with their characteristic wit and a touch of irreverence, likened the bulky, chest-protecting vest to Mae West's prominent bust. This informal, yet universally adopted, name was far more than just a playful jab. It was the highest form of recognition. It signified that the armor was not just effective, but it had become an indispensable, trusted part of their flight gear, something they relied on, joked about, and ultimately loved for keeping them alive. Imagine the scene. An aircraft limps back to base after a harrowing night mission, engines sputtering, fuselage riddled with holes. The ground crew rushes to meet it, relieved to see it land. Inside, exhausted but alive, a young pilot unbuckles his heavy Mae West. With a weary grin, he pulls it off, revealing a deep, angry dent on one of the steel plates, a clear impact mark from an enemy round. He holds it up for his mates to see, a silent testament to the vest's protective power. "Kiss you, Mae West," he might say, a wry comment punctuated by the relieved laughter of his comrades, a mix of tension releasing and gratitude for another life spared. This wasn't just a piece of equipment. It was a silent guardian, a symbol of hope, and a tangible link between a surgeon's audacious vision and the survival of those who risked everything in the skies above. The Mae West wasn't just a piece of armor. It became a cherished, life-saving companion. Section 5. More than just steel. The legacy of a rebel in a white coat. Sir Archibald McIndoe's forbidden vest was a triumph of ingenuity and defiance, saving thousands of lives during World War II. Yet, the story of this remarkable surgeon extends far beyond a single, albeit groundbreaking, piece of manganese steel. His actions and philosophy forged a legacy that transcended the immediate needs of wartime aviation, influencing the future of protective gear and embodying a profound lesson in leadership and moral courage. For his immense and undeniable contributions to the war effort and, more importantly, to the lives of countless airmen, Sir Archibald McIndoe received due recognition. In 1945, a year that marked the end of the global conflict, he was knighted. This honor was a testament to the scale of his impact, moving beyond the initial resistance and acknowledging the profound difference he had made. The numbers speak for themselves. Conservative estimates suggest that his innovative vest saved between 7,000 and 11,000 lives. These are not merely statistics. They represent individuals who returned home, who lived to build families, and who contributed to the post-war world, all thanks to a surgeon who dared to challenge the status quo. But McIndoe's vision for protecting aircrews was not limited to the torso. His inquiring mind and dedication to preventing casualties extended to other critical areas of vulnerability. He continued his work, also developing armored helmets and pioneering systems designed to protect aircraft fuel tanks. These efforts were remarkably prescient, anticipating and laying the groundwork for advancements in aviation safety that would only fully materialize decades later. His holistic approach to protection demonstrated a deep understanding of the risks faced by airmen and a tireless commitment to mitigating them. He wasn't just solving a problem, he was establishing a new paradigm for military and, eventually, civilian safety. The story of Sir Archibald McIndoe is far more than just an anecdote from wartime history or an army legend about a clever inventor. It serves as an enduring and powerful lesson that resonates across disciplines and through time. It teaches us that true effectiveness and impactful innovation often emerge at the intersection of deep professional competence, sheer courage, and an unwavering readiness to prioritize human life above rigid bureaucratic norms or conventional wisdom. McIndoe understood that rules are meant to serve humanity, not the other way around. His unwavering conviction that saving lives was paramount, even if it meant breaking established protocols, ultimately redefined what was possible. In conclusion, Sir Archibald McIndoe did indeed break the rules. He sidestepped regulations, challenged authority, and perhaps even stole resources to achieve his noble goal. But for the thousands of lives he saved, for the families who were spared unimaginable grief, and for the descendants who live today because of his actions, it is highly improbable that they would ever judge him for it. His legacy is one of compassion, innovation, and the ultimate triumph of human ingenuity in the face of adversity.